go live.
Let's go.
We are live. GB's out here singing Boys to Men before some Pitt football talk, brother.
Actually, it was the Pointer Sisters, but we'll go with Boys to Men. That's cool. You know?
Pointer Sisters. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Hey, man, welcome to the first live pod here on the Bird Cave. I can't think of a better group of men to talk some ball with here. Hopefully I don't screw this one up here, you know, because here in the Bird Cave, we just basically enjoy talking ball, NFL, NCAA, while enjoying a cold one here. My boy GB's got here. I mean, what man cave doesn't, right? If you enjoy football, you enjoy brews, hanging in a man cave, who doesn't, really? We hope you guys come back, hang with us, talk some ball, subscribe to our channel, follow us on the Twitters and everything. We don't want to do much else with the social medias in a little while too, but do appreciate everybody hanging with us. I'm Dudek here, and my main man cave partner in crime, GBD Uppity Yinzer, bro. How are you this evening?
I am doing super fantastic, Dudek. It is a great day. It is Monday. It's literally 4 days away from high school football, which is one of my greatest loves, if you will. But today is all about Pitt today. Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm waiting for this.
Let's go. First and foremost, my man Harry, the Pitt Guru Paceros. Welcome back to the Man Cave, aka Pitt Guru, aka best-selling author.
That's right.
Yep.
Very proud about that, but it's always an honor to be here with you guys. It hasn't been my first, it won't be my last, so I'm looking forward to it. And I always love talking Pitt sports, so here we go. I'm excited.
Great. And long overdue welcome into the Man Cave, my man JJ Kitchen from Talking Football with JJ Kitchen, a great college football podcast. Man, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great, guys. And man, I'm just pumped to be here. I've been wanting to get on with you guys, and I can tell you this: if you're in here tonight watching this show, you got to subscribe to the Bird Cave. This is the best of the best. We got some really good people here, including Harry. This is just going to be a really fun time tonight, man. I'm just pumped to be here, and it's crazy. We're less than 2 weeks away from college football and starting the 2025 season, man. I'm pumped.
And we can see you already got the first thing here. My webcam's already screwing up, but that's great. It's less live. This is what we're going to do here. Hey, so obviously with Pitt this year, there's a lot of buzz going around, and I think it's going to be a pretty big year for Pitt. But I want to start and get your guys' opinion on Coach Narduzzi entering his 11th year. So 10 years is a great milestone. It's an odd milestone in coaching for as many time, or for, you know, when people want to just turn and burn coaches. So in his 11th year, he has accumulated a record of 72-56, 46-36 in ACC play, 2 appearances in the ACC championship game, and obviously that great 2021 year with the ACC championship. I'll start with Harry on this one, and definitely want to get JJ's thoughts as well as GB's. What is your thought on the tenure so far with Coach Narduzzi?
Well, I think perspective in life is key. And if you look at what happened prior to Coach Deuce being there, you had the end of the Wanstead era, which was a debacle. I think everyone can agree with that. You had Todd Graham coming in. And I don't think Paul Chryst, he did help turn the program around to some extent, but he also used Pitt. He was planted and plucked away, which I personally didn't like, by Barry Alvarez. So Narduzzi has always been a great cultural fit at Pitt. You know, I know people are believe he's getting stale, but what I do like is the culture that he's built. I mean, you could see it now reminiscent in a lot of these meetings. It isn't just what they're doing on the field. He's talking about quiet time, where they're going over the mental aspects and teamwork and being a better human being. And so he's not flawless. He's not perfect. But I think he's what the program needed. And there's a lot to be said about staying in college football nowadays for over a decade. That being said, this is a critical season. He has to produce. We can go into why last season fell apart. That's a whole different story. But I believe we could be looking at and when I say that, not in a negative way, but he's close to retirement. So you could be actually, as a fan, watching the last Pat Narduzzi season. If not, he might have one more in the can. I don't know. But I do like what he's brought, and I do like the culture that he's brought and the toughness element to the team. So I like I said, I think it's been a 10-year blessing for the program. So like I said, I think it's been a 10-year blessing for the program. Oh. What do you think, JJ? You're up, bud.
Yep, hearing you now. Sorry. One, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things you talked about there was the fact that, what the program needed. And to your point, we talked about the turnstile of head football coaches that we're going through here, especially after the Wannstedt era, which more than likely should not have ended. I think that Dave Wannstedt was given the support that he has now, like that Pat Narduzzi has now. I think potentially Pitt's a top 20, top 15 team every year because of how he was able to recruit with the limited resources, the limited upgrades in the facilities. There's numerous different things we could look at. But to your point, I love how you said it's something that the program needed. One of the things you look at, some things that Pat Narduzzi really did that sets up himself apart from previous head coaches. He set a culture here. One of the things that people talk about, anybody I talk to, whether it's recruits, players, current players, former players, he's a player's coach. He's a player's guy. He loves his guys, and people really truly play for him. And there's been a number of years where things could have gotten out of hand and the team could have quit, but instead they played for each other. And then Pat Narduzzi really built that culture. And I think, it's truly what Pitt needed and really needed stability for the past 10 years and really took Pitt from here to here. But now to go from here to here, there's a question. There truly is a question is he the guy to really do it? And we look at this year, again, it is a massive year. He's got a lot of returning talent, potentially the best linebacking crew in the country. You look at the defensive line, plenty of returning starters, plenty of guys they've brought in. Jaden Moore, defensive end out of Oregon, former 4-star. He's playing very well during camp. He's got plenty of guys up front, Francis Breu, Sean Fitzsimmons. Then you look at Eli Holstein returning, Cade Bell in his second year, plus Desmond Reed, a returning All-American. The pieces are there. And obviously you return everybody on your staff. It really comes down to this point in, you need to perform. It needs to be there. These next 5 years in college football are a major, major stepping point into what does the next phase look like, which I would expect in 2030 to be another shakeup. And Pitt needs to get on board with being able to be continuously winning each year. They certainly have the support right behind them right now. They continue to build that with more revenue. But Pat Narduzzi, I think, was the guy that truly Pitt needed, and a loyal guy. He never looked to leave. I know there was conversations about Michigan State and whatnot. He never really looked at that. That opportunity was really never there. He was a guy that really stuck to Pitt and a guy that really built the culture to where you finally had some stability. It's almost like a Kirk Ferentz, a guy you really ever see go past 10-plus years. Nick Saban, 10-plus years. How many coaches are staying past, 5 years? I mean, we've seen how many coaches get fired after 2 years. So he's a guy that we needed, but now it's time to really show you either put up or shut up. I mean, this is a massive, massive year. And if he doesn't perform, there potentially needs to be a change. And, to Harry's point, retirement's calling. Father Time is undefeated. And I think there's going to be a time to where if he's not performing, Alan Green's going to be a guy that says, you know what, I want to move on and get my own guy.
If I could mention, too, if we're going above Narduzzi, JJ was talking about the awful way Wannstedt went out. Steve Peterson, at that point, there's a famous story. He asked for carpet in the facilities on the south side. They wouldn't even cough up money for carpet. You're only as good as your administration above you as well. And what's great now, when I say Pitt's come a long way, not just from the stability that he's offered, but at least now we have Chancellor Gable, who's on board, Alan Green, who's on board and understands the current climate of football. And we all know what that means, NIL money and fundraising as much as possible. So on top of Dews, who's really helped us transition through this period, I think Pitt's come a long way in terms of administration. So to JJ's point again, everything is coming together, but now's the time to perform. Because when we go to these mega conferences, you're only as good as your latest season. And Pitt has to start showing, and not that the team's been horrible. Now's the time to really elevate and show what they could do. And this season's lining up potentially for a big one. We'll see what happens.
So, Dudek, it's funny. First of all, I can't believe it's already, this is going to be his 11th season. That's crazy because I feel like time is flying, first of all. Being 72 and 56, 2 appearances in the ACC championship game, and he won one with the infamous slide. Everybody knows about that, right? If I could put it into one word, it would be unfinished. That's basically what his career has been so far, is unfinished, and it was a perfect example in 2024. They started off guns a-blazing 7-0, and and the next thing you know, they went down like Wile E. Coyote, boom, and crashed and burned at the end of the year and went 0-6. So if there's anything, and this type of message really looms dear in my heart, because Abernworth Lopes have the exact same message: finish the business, right? And my understanding is that's what Mike Rose has been talking about, is finishing, right? And I think that's the culmination that will really put his name up there at a highly respectable level in Pitt history, once he finishes the business. And I do feel like this team has the ingredients, right? They have the ingredients to return back to the ACC championship. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to start getting into like some Cade Bell stuff, which I think is one of the big stories coming into this year. But we have a good question here from WRW Pitt, and I know we were talking a little bit offline before we got on. JJ, you were getting some updates from the scrimmage last night. Can you give everybody here a quick update on how that scrimmage went, high level, anything exciting, and any concerns?
Yeah, so last night, as you guys can imagine, the game was roughly started about 8:05. They finished up a little bit past 9 o'clock. Another very physical scrimmage. I can tell you the defense really dominated. Defense really took care of business in that scrimmage, which was a good thing because the offense won the first one. So I think after 2 scrimmages, you're kind of happy one on one side and the other was able to take advantage of it, especially in a year 2 of this offense with Cade Bell. I think a couple turnovers here and there were the deciding factor in those. In that outcome. But as you can imagine, guys like Kyle Lewis, players like that really just showed up and really played really, really well. The defensive line played really well. But overall, the defense responded what we really wanted to see after that scrimmage last week, where the offense really dominated and a couple, decisions down the road where it made the game a little bit closer, but offense really dominated. Last night, the defense really took care of business. And I think overall, you're looking at the defense right now, and they're just becoming really into midseason form, which is a really good thing as the season gets started, because we're going to need that defense to step up early on in the season. Yep.
Fantastic. So you mentioned Cade Bell, and like I said, that's what I want to get into here, and I would like to get everyone's thoughts on this too. When I was talking with Harry and last year, and you say, hey, we're bringing Cade Bell in, I'm always curious to see what an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator does whenever he levels up. From Western Carolina, obviously to some of the big boy ball here in the ACC. He was known for 500-plus yard games of offense, 37, 40 points a game. Brought up that up-tempo style to Pitt, but will that transition to the big boy ball? And honestly, for a lot of last year, it did. Right, especially those first 7 games. And I really liked when it was a controlled tempo. You know what I mean? Like the ball was moving about 6 to 10 air yards, and Holstein was clicking. And then when you do that, then you take your deep shot. I think that kind of got ahead of themselves, taking too many deep shots. It was kind of erratic. And then there was a couple plays behind the line of scrimmage that just kind of got blown up. It's something that they were just catching their rhythm. Coming into year 2, JJ, what have you heard from the players with Cade Bell's system? Is there more of a comfort level with his system? Talk about, they won the first scrimmage. How quickly are they able to get in and out of huddles, less mistakes, things like that? What are you hearing so far with Cade Bell's second year in the comfort level?
So a couple things. The first one, comfortability with the system. I think that's a massive factor going into year 2. The players are very happy of where they are, knowing the system, where last year everything was sporadic. But number 2, actually keeping the tempo at a high pace. One of the things that makes Cade Bell's offense so very enticing, electric, is being able to pace it up and also slow it down when you want to. We saw numerous times last year in the early portion of the year, that 7-0 run, they were able to move the ball at will, but being able to move as fast as they wanted to. The minute they started having injuries up front, they lost Ryan Jacoby. You lose Branson Taylor. Then automatically you start losing Lyndon Cooper for a game. Ryan Bayer goes from right tackle to left tackle. Isaiah Montgomery makes his first ever start. Jackson Brown makes his first ever start. You got Terrence Enos in there. You start doing a lot of people moving back and forth. A lot of dysfunction then happens. Offense is by far the hardest side of the football. On defense, it's more reactive. You're able to really change things up, get creative. On Pitt's side of the football, where a Pat Narduzzi defense, he's playing a 4-3-quarter style defense where it's pretty much they're in their base their entire time. After that, they really get disguising of who they want to bring. They'll keep their linebackers on there. If it's third down and long, they may bring up a Delta package in where they put another linebacker in there, or they put another DB in there, depending upon who's on the field. For the offense, everyone has to be in unison. One person messes up, the play's completely shot. Yep. So I think that this offense, these players are much happier this year. Guys like Kateris Blue Hicks, who comes in from Louisville, was really able to take off from spring to fall because guys were already there teaching it. Kenny Johnson is so much more intuitive to this offense because he got to play in it last year. The same thing with the offensive line. The same thing with Eli Holstein. We talked about on the ACC network and talking about, I understand why Cade Bell's calling what he's calling. And then this year, we're able to go as fast as we want, but also slow it down, be really a dual threat. But I think the biggest thing that's going to help them is not having, to your point, Dudek, not having to throw the ball down the field 20, 30, 40 times a game, really be able to mix and match where you get the run game going, really become two-dimensional and figure out exactly how you want to attack the defense, because eventually the Cal game really showed it. They dropped 8. We're going to rush 4 guys. We're going to create a little bit of pressure because they got different guys up front than they did before in the beginning of the year. And then immediately you started getting that quarterback where a redshirt freshman who's only starting his first every year of college football started to get those wandering eyes and not being able to find his open receiver. So I think this year 2 was always a much better item, especially when you want to get better on offense.
Absolutely.
If I could add, we need to let's give Cade Bell props. This is year 1, though. Points per game rose 20.2 to 32.9. That's from 116th to 31st nationally. This is year 1. Yeah. Total offense jumped from 408.7 yards per game. That's 116th to 46th nationally. So he did come in and make an impact. JJ specifically knows, and we talked about this when I was on his podcast. I mentioned that the injury to Branson Taylor changed. So Gabe talked about the 7-0 start, then they went off a cliff. We lost a 6'6", 320-pound tackle, currently playing for the LA Chargers, that could slam dunk a basketball. He went out. They start jostling the lineup. Quite frankly, the backups didn't step up like they needed them to, and the continuity of the offense was shot. Now, I've had the brain trust on Twitter, who they're always want to be out there and feast and yell at you. Go, Harry. Injuries happen all the time. Yes, I know that. Wise ass. But the point being, that was I mean, come on. I think an engineering degree.
That's such a great point, though. That's just such a great point.
It really came down to that was such a critical injury, because what happened, the line after that was suspect, and JJ hit it right on the head. They knew we could rush, and after that, actually, if you remember, Eli ended up getting hurt as well.
Yeah.
So, what I do like is they brought in a lot of transfers, and they brought in a guy like Kendall Stanley that could flex either right or left. And I understand now why they stopped. They'd have to spend more money on the line, but they brought in some versatile guys to alleviate that situation this year, on top of the fact there's improved offensive cohesion, execution, and there's more weapons there. So on paper, this should be a significantly better offense.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, JJ, talk a little bit about the addition of Cole Gonzalez transferring from West Carolina over to Pitt. Because last year, and Harry just kind of alluded to it, Eli Holstein did get injured, towards the end of the season, and that was another part of the of their epic collapse, if you will. But I found that to be very interesting, and what was even more interesting is that the second Gonzalez transferred in, Duggar transferred out, like almost like the next day, it felt like. So talk a little bit about his presence and what he brings to the table, being that he has been with Coach Bell for some years.
So that was a really interesting move to bring him in. And I thought, one, it was a good thing because he's a guy that I truly believe can play at this level, but he's also like a secondhand coach. He's able to go into that quarterback room and know exactly what a guy like Cade Bell wants. He's also a really good attribute and asset to a young guy like Mason Heinchel. And I've heard plenty of different things about Mason Heinchel. That guy is going to be a damn good quarterback in college football, especially for Pitt in this offense. He's a guy, I think, just, the Pitt Ironworks, and let me tell you something. Mike Stacchiotti and his crew over there, Kevin Showers, all those guys are just truly some of the best in college football. He came from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and those guys have done a hell of a job. But I can tell you, he comes in and is able to add another dimension of being able to learn this offense. And I think he can play at this level. I think that the competition right now between him and Mason Heinchel is pretty intense. I wouldn't be shocked that we see those two guys play quarterback against Duquesne and Central Michigan. I would not be shocked if some of those guys start to get a little bit of touches here and there. I think they're going to watch and see how many snaps each one of those get. They certainly don't want to burn Mason Heinchel's red shirt. But I can tell you, those first two games are a great opportunity to get his feet wet, put him out there, figure out how he performs in a much louder environment, especially when you go in the Acrisure Stadium with people in there. It's a whole different ballgame than what you're playing in practice. Get those guys in there. But a guy like Cole Gonzalez was a massive factor. They added him. I had heard a lot of rumors about Julian Duggar potentially going into the portal. I think there was a discrepancy on, how much his value was really worth. I think that, he felt like he could, potentially be higher up on the depth chart. From my understanding, that Mason Heinchel passed him on the depth chart. I can assure you, we were compensating Julian Duggar. That's for sure. But I think that once we knew that Julian was going to hit the portal, Cole Gonzalez, who was down at Oklahoma at the time, talked about how, maybe this isn't the greatest fit for me. I feel like there's a better option, and went back in the portal. And Cade Bell really brought him in there again. I think he's going to be a valuable asset. He's technically another coach. I think he's going to apply for another year of eligibility because he's able to get that. I think with the way that the track record is with Pitt, I think they'll do a really good job and get him another year. But when you look at this quarterback room, you talk about injuries last year. I think if Eli Holstein plays out the whole year, that Pitt probably has 2 more wins. I mean, we talk about the offense, and Harry did a great job of bringing up the statistics of just how much the offense got better, which, I love Frank Signetti, but that was one of the worst offenses I've ever watched in college football, and actually collective football ever. I'm not sure there was a worse offense I've ever watched in history of football, But obviously he comes in, does a lot better of a job. But, you looked at Nate Yarnell, a guy who really makes his first start, really, besides the Western Michigan game, throws for 350 yards against Clemson and that defense. The system works. When you have the right guys, you're able to get him a little time. And also, too, Nate Yarnell, that kid's a tough son of a bitch. I can tell you that. He took so many hits. I thought he died. I honestly almost thought he died with the one hit that he took to his head. And I thought Narduzzi was going to lose his mind when they didn't call a flag. And then they finally had a nice timeout, which, by the way, I'm in every game. That stadium was just, it was so loud in Acrisure Stadium for people booing. It was unreal. And then when they finally switched the call, it was one, the correct call to switch it. But you watch this offense overall perform at a high level when there's some type of stability. And I think going forward this year, it's going to have that. And a guy like Cole Gonzalez is going to be a great benefactor of that system. And if a guy gets hurt, we've seen it last year. We've had 3 or 4 guys go into these games. It's good to have a collectively good quarterback room, and I like Cole Gonzalez, and I really like Mason Heinchel.
Yeah, absolutely. I was with Harry at the spring game, and we were just commenting on Mason multiple times that the anticipatory throws, throwing on the line when he need to throw on the line, putting some air in the ball. He seemed to get it. He was by far the best quarterback in the spring game. Out there, and I kept talking with Harry and Max, and so sitting there like, I'm impressed with this kid. He is going to be a really, really good quarterback. And so, like you said, JJ, whether they get in against Duquesne and Central Michigan, they probably should. I was listening to your pod yesterday talk about, those should be comfortable games where you can get some guys some valuable playing time if they were called upon later on in the year. They got some, experience to kind of fall back on. So you guys hit on the backups with Cole Gonzalez. GB, thanks for that question. And Mason, what are you guys expecting, from Eli? And before we get to some other members of the offense, like the line and some of the playmakers, but What do you guys think of, or what are your expectations of Eli the second year? Harry, we'll get your thoughts first. So what do you think he needs to do to take that next step within Cade Bell's offense?
First, quickly discussing you mentioned the Signetti offense. I'd rather have a colonoscopy with a blazing hot lead pipe than go back to watching that offense. So let me get back to the present question.
I'll drink it out there, Harry.
Oh my Lord! It gave me PTSD. But Eli, this could be a massive season for Eli, and the reason I say that, what Cade Bell is laser focused. Eric, you and I talked about this. So I talked to JJ too. He really knows the type of athlete he needs, including linemen, to plug into this system. So on paper, looking at it, this is a better lineup with, and look, first of all, he's obviously incredibly talented, but you're a better quarterback when you have better weapons. There are better weapons on this roster right now, in particular the wideouts. Yeah. So I think it's reasonable as a Pitt fan to expect an enhanced performance. It's all going to be predicated again on the line, but I mean, going top to bottom, going from the tight ends to the wideouts, we should see a monster season from Eli. God willing, he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, and JJ just touched on both of them. If it does happen, I feel far more comfortable entering this season than I did last season. One thing Cade Bell showed a year ago, he was very comfortable bringing in the Western Carolina players. JJ and I saw the negativity from all the fans until a player like Des Reed started crushing it on the field. And they even brought in Jalen Williams, I think, who's 55 years old, but he's been playing for quite some time. But they did add him to the roster, another Western Carolina running back. But I feel like we're in for there's no reason to not have high expectations.
Fantastic. So you mentioned, and I'm going to get into the skill positions as well a little bit later, but we had a question from Maddie Panthers show up, and I think it's a great question for the success of the offense. And I'm sorry to cover up the Harry and GB there in the face here, but hey, do you guys expect them to name the winner for the left tackle position this week, or is that something that's going to continue within those first couple games against Duquesne or Central Michigan? JG, you want to take the first cracker from what you're hearing, especially from anything that transpired from the scrimmage?
The one thing about Pat Narduzzi is he wants every advantage over every potential opponent, and I highly doubt he'll be putting out there exactly who's starting where, who the potential starters are. Heck, I mean, even talking about injuries, he freaks out about that. I don't expect him to name a starter. If he does, it may be out of lightheartedness, just to give the opponent something. But I think those first two games, you're going to watch and see a couple different combinations. They're going to try to figure out who plays well with who, mix guys in and out. I think potentially they'll probably rotate in out of the offensive line, potentially, maybe up to 8 guys. I think right now, from everything I've heard, Jeff Percy, the Michigan transfer, looks to be the guy at left tackle. He has really taken over that position. Kendall Stanley can certainly flow in there. I mean, he's done a great job there as well. He's moved in a little bit at the guard position, but I think he's more of a tackle than anything else. I think Keith Gouveia has been really battling at the guard position. Jackson Brown has moved into guard. He's been battling at that position. Former 4-star offensive guard out of the Georgia area. Caleb Holmes was competing for that spot over there too. So there's a number of different factors. I mean, the one thing that's much better this year is that they should have more depth. And that was a massive factor we looked at last year, where they really had 5 starters. And after that, if someone got hurt, it was over. And we saw it plain as day. They had nobody else in reserves because guys were, one, extremely young, very inexperienced, and it was understandable for those guys not to perform at a high level because of the lack of play they had there. They were a young football team last year. But I think overall with the offensive line, for me, I have that as the biggest factor of how well this team does. Eli Holstein, I think that we watched him during the spring. There were a lot of question marks because the first couple of weeks he really didn't play well. And, he wasn't 100% healthy, comes into summer, does really well, goes into the fall, and he's been playing really well so far. And I think he's 100% healthy. He's got that confidence and that swagger that he's been looking for. But from anybody that I've talked to, that offensive line has taken it personally to keep him healthy. That's been the number one factor. And also, being able to move people at will. I always say, I tweeted out a number of videos between Mike McGlynn after the 13-9 game, talking about, how everyone doubted us. There's only one way forward, and that's moving, and that's forward. I just think that, the days of, the great offensive linemen that have been at the University of Pittsburgh, you look at the history of it. They embrace violence. They embrace being able to move their feet, athletic individuals, physical and violent hands, being able to grab someone and move them. Bill Fralick is the guy that really just emulates that from top to bottom. Potentially, probably the best offensive lineman Pitt's ever had. If you watch his film, it's almost like he's laughing when he's hitting somebody. That's what you want out of an offensive lineman. And there's no better feeling. And then especially, Goose, he was always number one, especially on the both sides of the football. He talked about being able to be violent and wanting to get after people. I've talked to numerous people, and I think that the offensive line this year is taking that to another level to where people are doubting the offensive line, which is understandable, by the way. I understand why people are doubting the offensive line, because under Narduzzi, it just has not been a very positive outlook. Besides early on when we had, Adam Bisnawati, Dorian Johnson, Brian O'Neill. You had a number of different guys in that offensive line, but they were Paul Chris recruits. Now It's that time this year to find out who the hell do we really have, who wants to embrace violence, and who really wants to take this team to that next level and compete for a championship.
It's pretty unique. And when you look at the two, I believe you're going to have on the right, you're going to have Ryan Baer, who's going to be playing in the pros, who looks phenomenal, has lost weight. Is a behemoth. But you have a 6'8" Ryan Baer and a 6'9" Jeff Percy, who came from a Big Ten program. And to your point, they really have to keep, and I got to tell you, the most pleasant surprise on the line, he's coming back, is Lyndon Cooper. I thought he would be good. He was outstanding, and he's built for center. He's a bucket head. He's wide. So those three are really going to have to lead the way. And I do love the Keith Gavea addition. A brawler, a mauler, but they, at the end of the day, JJ said it all. It's all predicated on the play of the line. And I think the money they spent is going to be well spent. I mentioned Kendall Stanley because I like that he's flexible. I'm going to sound like Mike Tomlin. He has position versatility. You can move him around on the line because it's inevitable somebody's going to go down. Yep. So, I feel good right now. I'll feel better after maybe watching the first few games and seeing what the cohesion looks like.
Good.
Yeah. And to your point there too, you guys know whether it's high school, whether it's college or the NFL, the greatest teams are built from the front to the back. Your offensive line, and to be honest with you, I call them special athletes because those guys up front, what they're being asked to do, especially kick steps, being able to have a tremendous footwork, physical hands, being able to, one, block the man in front of you, but also, two, work in unison. It starts up front. And I think that these guys, again, they just got to take it seriously to where, this team goes as far as the offensive line. And we've said that for numerous years. And I just think that the greatest teams in college football and the NFL are the most dominant in being able to dominate the line of scrimmage. We've seen it from Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon. It doesn't matter where they come from. They are truly the best. The best teams are built up front.
Yep.
Facts.
I agree.
Nothing happens on offense unless the offensive line says so. Period. Point blank. End of story. Take it from somebody who was a former offensive lineman and also an offensive coordinator. Nothing happens unless the offensive line says so. And I'm looking at 6'8", 325, and I'm looking at 6'9", 315, and I'm looking at a. I'm taking notes. See, I'm looking at your notes here, Dudek. See, and I see 6'5", 317 pounds average on the offensive line. I think they're gonna say something.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say about that. I think they got something to say.
And those measurables are athletic offensive linemen. Guys that go to the center, they can move, they can get out on ball screens, they can get out on, on basically like sprint outs by they can slide their protection when Holstein's going to do like a little quick rollout doing some of these. So yeah, I was taken back by that average. GB 6'7", 315 average. Now, granted, some of the backups may tilter that a little bit here too. But we actually have one more follow-up question from Matty Panthers on this too, is any young guys in the offensive line sticking out in camp? And after we hit this, we're going to hit some skill positions, and we'll move over.
Hey, please tell me my man Shep Turk is doing his thing. Please tell me. That's my man. That dude was a monster at TJ, bro. Oh my gosh. Please tell me Shep Turk is out there manhandling college dudes. Like
Shep's going to be such a great player for Pitt. I talked to a couple of elite players from Whitfield last year, and I said, who's the best player he played against? All of them pointed to Shep. I think it's a matter of time before he's pushing for a starting position at Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say obviously Shep Turk, a couple other names, Ty Ray, Caleb Holmes. Caleb Holmes now redshirt freshman, but the number one guy to look forward to, and I think he touches the football field this year, Torian Chester, true freshman offensive lineman out of Georgia. We've heard a lot of good stuff about him. You know, he's a guy just built differently, built physically, and we've seen B.J. Williams start as a true freshman. Pat Narduzzi has talked a lot about him, and I think that when your name gets brought up that much at the offensive line position, and when your own teammates are saying, hey, he's doing a really good job, I think by potentially game 3, game 4, game 5, he maybe touches the field a little more consistently, because at the end of the day, the first 2 games, you're going to find out a little bit what kind of depth do you have, how many guys can you truly trust, who can I really put in the football game. Because week 3, when you go to Morgantown, you better find out who your top 40 guys are, because it's going to get physical. It's going to get loud. It's going to be a hell of an environment. And I know they have 72, 75 plus new players. You know, I still think Pitt wins that game handily. But when you go into an environment like that, you better be ready to go. You know, you can't have those freshman struggles. You can't have those, those moments where you're looking up and the bright lights are there. It's time to get after it. It's time to start really just moving people. And I think Torian Chester's a guy, man, he's just mentally on point in his football IQ, but he is an old school offensive lineman, a lot like a Shep Turk, where they love being able to move people.
I will tell you, years ago, I was sitting at Bethany Beach, Delaware, interviewing Matt Gonzalez as head coach, and he was raving about Matt. I put the story out, and the Brain Trust again was yelling at me, "You're an idiot. This guy's going to be a bust. He's not even a 2-star, blah, 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 blah." And obviously now he's starting for the Colts. Chester has that feel. This guy's 6'4", 325. He's not fat. He's built. He's not a jelly roll. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that Pitt fought off very few schools to get him, and he's already lighting it up. And it feels like the same story all over again, except we're shifting it from New York to Georgia for the recruit. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the future. And if you're lining him up with a guy like Shep Turk, that's a good foundation for the line moving forward.
Yep. It sounds like a lot of positive. It sounds like not only they have their type, but they're continuing to recruit their type, and that's all about building a foundation with Cade Bell and with Narduzzi and such. So the last point I want to hit on the offense, and I want to hit the defense here as well.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Dudek, real quick. Hey, so quick story on Shep Turk. Shep Turk blocked for a kid by the name of Braden White last year, right? Son of none other than Brock White from New Kensington, Pennsylvania. Just wanted to throw that out there. Just a little did you know out there. And let me and another thing. Shep Turk. Yeah. Shep Turk also, he's one of 2 guys that I've seen absolutely dominate a high school game on his own and like completely dictate the terms of the game. Okay. Last year against Avonworth, I watched Shep Turk absolutely dominate our guys, right? I mean, he was just manhandling these dudes. Like, he's a big dude, man. He can wrestle too. And the other guy, ironically, also plays for Pitt, and that was Sean Fitzsimmons. I watched him single-handedly dictate the terms of games on the defensive line. We're going to get to him here in a second. Those 2 dudes are the 2 guys that I've watched in the last couple of years that absolutely in high school dictate the terms and absolutely expect them to do the exact same thing for the Pitt Panthers. So,
if I could add, it's awesome is you're going to be lining up potentially down the line, Shep next to current recruit John Curran from Pine Richland, and you're looking at 2 nasty young men that grew up Pitt fans that want to play at Pitt. If you're a fan and that doesn't give you a shiver up and down your spine, I don't know what will. I'm excited to see what they look like in the future.
Curran's daddy went to Slippery Rock. Big John. That's my dude,
There we
man.
go.
Yes. Shout out to Big
Go Rock.
John.
Hey,
Yes,
good
sir.
program.
Go Rock, baby. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hey, so like what I want to hit on here too is near and dear to my heart is the wide receiver position, and I just want to. And I know Harry and JJ, you guys know this. GB may know this, but I just want to read something to you. So you got Kenny Johnson, who's been my guy. Harry's to my witness, been my guy for years. Once I saw this guy just his first kickoff return, I'm like, this guy's got some talent. You could just see it. He's 6'1", 205. Poppy Williams, 5'10", 165, 170. You know, you got Hicks, JJ, you've been talking about it, you know, star in camp and stuff. It's 5'10", 175. Sensore Lee, 5'11", 165, 170. Zion Fowler L, 6 foot, 190. Then you have the other guy, the transfer from Florida State, and Deuce Vaughn at 6'4", 210. They have their type. You have two guys with some muscle on them in Kenny Johnson and Zion Fowler L. But everything else are these guys that are quick in and out of their breaks. You know, they're shifty. They got good hands. I believe, and you guys you have to let me know. I mean, you know, they can catch in contact, but they're more catch and run guys, which I think if you build that tempo up and you're getting those 8, 9, 10 air yards, they catch and go. And then obviously you throw All-American Desmond Reed in there too in the passing game, who was tied for the team lead in catches last year. Kenny Johnson had a marveled about Zion Fowler L about being so basically night and day from last year to this year. You're hearing about Hicks, the transfer from Louisville. Poppy Williams is Poppy Williams. You know, he's doing well. He's a product of K-Bell's system. What are you guys seeing from this wide receiver core? And is there anybody from that group outside of Kenny Johnson? He needs to step up like you guys were talking about. Anybody else that you're seeing is like, you know what, let's keep an eye on him, maybe if not now, in those first 2 games, obviously leading into the West Virginia game?
You know, I'd say there's a number of guys, and the wide receiver room's pretty open. I mean, you look at a number of the besides Kenny Johnson, who, again, you know, he needs to prove he's a wide receiver 1 this year. We all believe he's that wide receiver 1. He has all the attributes. He's got the great route running. He's got the great hands, has made numerous great plays that we've seen in previous years. This is the year he needs to really prove it. I think that when you look at just right behind him, you've got that Raphael Poppy Williams. You know, towards the end of the year, people were like, man, he was Mr. Drops. Well, at the end of the day, he had 2 torn ligaments in his thumbs, you know, so he finally got that surgery done. So now he's 100%. CJ Lee will be back 100%. But then you look really behind them, I think Blue Hicks is going to be that guy. I think he steps up to be that number 2 wide receiver. And then Deuce Spann, I think he'll be a really good guy on the outside. He continues to make really good plays, and at 6'4", I think it's good to have at least one guy out there where you've got good size. And a guy who can run it the way he does. I mean, he's a guy that's running a 4.5, 4.40. I mean, he is a guy who can move at the 6'4". Yeah. Put him out there. The biggest thing with Deuce is, can he stay healthy? That's where the question really lies with him, as he went into being a starter last year at Florida State, but ended up getting hurt. The biggest thing is, can he stay healthy? And I think a guy to really watch in that room, we've talked about Zion Fowler. We've talked about Deuce Spann, Blue Hicks, you know, CJ Lee, Raphael Poppy Williams. The guy to watch for is a true freshman in Tony Kinsler. Yeah. He's making a lot of noise in camp. I think he's really good in his route running. In this offense, they all have speed, which is a really good thing. But I think going to that next level of being a great receiver from here to here is, how do I route run? What is my route running? Do I understand where I need to be? In this offense, it's great to get up and moving, but guess what? You got to be where you need to be, where the football is going to be. So if you can really get your route running down, you could be a really special player. And from what we've heard and seen from Tony Kinsler, I think he could be a great player now and potentially down the road as well. And then even down the road from there, Bryce Yates is another guy who could potentially be a good football player for Pitt. Maybe not this year, but in year 2 and year 3.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see, real quick, Harry, if we got about your route running as well. You talked about guys with speed, and speed is great, but your route running is at a controlled speed. You know what I mean? You don't need to run 4.3 on a dig route. You need to, get, especially if you're coming off the line and you read zone, how do you settle down in that open area to allow Eli and anybody else to hit you in that zone, catch it, then you take off. So that's great to hear about that young man who has that understanding so far.
And a prime guy who never had elite speed like we see here, between Tony Kinsler and Blue Hicks. Go look at a guy like Tyler Boyd, who ran a 4.540, 4.55. He wasn't the blazing fast guy, but guess what? He ran some damn good routes, and guess what? He was always open. You create that space, you're always open. And now Tyler Boyd playing in the National Football League, it's the facts are the facts. If you can route run and then apply that speed as well, you could be a really dangerous wide receiver.
Hey, Jerry
Rice.
That's why I
thought Mumfield was going to be a great. I think Mumfield's going to be a great receiver because of his route running ability alone.
Yep. He might have been the best route runner in the draft, actually. But I will tell you, everyone is saying when JJ and I spoke on his podcast, I said this has to be a bag season for Kenny Johnson, and I think it will be. I mean, from everything everyone's telling me from practice, he's looking even better. Blue Hicks was a huge addition, and he was hand-selected by Bell, fits right into the system. This is the yak attack. These are guys who have to run great routes. They're lightning fast, but if you give them space, they're gone. And that's why I think you can get away with a smaller receiver. But Kenny Johnson and Blue Hicks are going to be major players. Poppy, obviously. If you go back and look at the high school film on Fowler L, he's a freak athlete. He just had to put it together. All the tools are already there. So I think the two that JJ mentioned, Fowler L and Tony Kinsler, you're going to see starting to I think you're going to see a lot of PT this season. And it's exciting to see what they could do. But I feel better. Again, we talked about depth and injuries. If something were to go, if a few of these players miss here or there's so many players who could fill that gap. I feel really good. There's so many tools Eli has to throw into, so it should be really exciting.
So we have another thing with Mr. WRW Pitt about the tight ends playing a major role in this offense. We heard a lot of talk about the wide receivers, and rightfully so. Is there somebody there that's next in line to replace Gavin Bartholomew? Or is this more of a committee? Or what do you guys think?
And JJ could, you have Jake Overman, who has been really stepped up as a team leader. First of all, I hate to say it, but even last year, Gavin didn't have what I would call a major role in the offense. So I don't have super high expectations. Malachi Thomas can really catch. Didn't show it in the spring game, but he can catch. He's an athlete. Jake Overman is a great, he's kind of a good mix. Like, it reminds me of Scott Orndorff, where he could block and catch. And then they brought in Justin Holmes from Marshall, who's more of a blocking tight end. But, I mean, they're solid. Do I expect them to be a major part of the offense? No, based on history. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with Harry there. I don't see them having a major effect on the offense. I like how he has the tight ends lined up outside, though, because potentially you're able to create mismatches, and that's kind of one of the things that Cade Bell's been known for. But I think right now it's an interesting battle between Justin Holmes and Jake Overman. I think we all kind of expected Jake Overman to take that position and take a hold of it and move forward. Then all of a sudden, Justin Holmes comes in. They think he's a guy that's 6 foot. In reality, 6'3". Probably one of the reasons why other schools didn't grab him. Everyone loves those measurables. So a guy that's really 6'3" can move really well. He was able to be a pass catching tight end at Kent State. Goes to Marshall, more of a physical guy running downhill. A guy that, again, Marshall was a really good football team. They had a lot of crazy stuff going on behind the scenes that they lose their head coach after winning a Sun Belt championship. That's a first I've ever seen that. So that's a whole different debacle down there. Yeah, I think overall they've got solid pieces there. Are they going to be, the next Gavin Bartholomew or better than that? I don't think so. I think Jake Overman really proved to us last year he can be more than a blocking tight end. He had a number of good plays. I kind of almost look at him like, if we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, he's not a guy with a lot of speed, but he's a guy like Heath Miller. If he's somewhere in the open field, you throw it to him, he'll catch the football. You won't get a lot of yak yards like Heath Miller was able to do a lot of times. But if he's in the open field and he gets on a mismatch, you'll be able to throw the football to him. But I think as we've seen in previous years, that, I don't expect him to be a major asset to the offense because I think Cade Bell has so many other guys. And I think that between the wide receiver room, Desmond Reed, I think that's a major factor. And I think that the big thing for Cade Bell this year as an offensive play caller, and we talk about guys getting better on this football team, let's not forget the guys in the coaching room too. Cade Bell needs to be a better play caller. The amount of times that I heard from other coaches in the ACC that said, hey, just giving you an honest look. He goes, our plan was to stop Desmond Reed, and that was it. You have to utilize the guys that are around you. You've got to spread the football around. Yep. And I think in this offense, you'll go through your progressions. You'll have that 1-2 progression. If it's not there, you're taking off. That's kind of what the Cade Bell offense is. Get down, make sure you stay healthy, get back up, and then you're rolling every 10, 15 seconds. But I think that overall, when you have this many different guys on the field that you can say, hey, we've got a number of different good weapons here. Desmond Reed in the backfield, Joel Goff, Shakiri, Boozy Turner. You got a bunch of guys in the backfield, but the wide receiver room, you got those guys this year. Last year, you kind of said, okay, we got Kenny Johnson, Kanate Mumfield, but after that, you kind of had some question marks. CJ Lee got hurt halfway through the year. Raphael Poppy Lee had some issues because of the injuries. Eventually, you started running a little bit of the depth. Now you have depth at that position. Make sure you rotate guys in there, keep them fresh, keep them healthy, and start really using those guys and get multiple. And what I mean by multiple, putting guys out where you have a three guys out wide, one guy stretched out to the far side of the field where you create different mismatches. Finding those guys where you say, hey, I'm going to attack the defense where I know the specific weaknesses are. If you can find those weaknesses and put the right guys on them, you can be pretty much unstoppable because you're able to attack certain portions of the defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, real quick before we move to the defense here, so far a comment of the night. I think everybody here will appreciate this. From my man Blues Brother.
Amen, brother. That's it right there.
Amen. Great job.
Yeah.
Great job.
West Virginia, congratulations. Congratulations to West Virginia today. They did officially win the attendance trophy. Congratulations to them. The one sellout they'll have this year was against the Pitt Panthers, so God bless them. Just want to congratulate them on the next 6-6 season, so God bless them.
There we go. Hey, so I want to hit on the defense real quick, and then I got 5 really quick, fun trivia questions for you gentlemen for talk on this too. So Randy Bates back as the defensive coordinator. Obviously, we feel that this is going to be a strength of the defense, especially the Sharks. Offensive, they're returning 61% of their defensive production. That's huge. That can actually carry them as the offense still continues to figure it out, maybe in games 3, 4, and 5 as well, maybe create some turnovers and things of that nature. Shout out to Kyle Lewis, preseason All-American. Had 101 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 4 picks. I think that was all against Syracuse, by the way. But, he's great. And then you got, Braylon Lovelace, 53 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a pick. And Rasheem Biles, 82 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. A lot of tackles for losses from the linebacking crew. Very aggressive tackling machines. Guys, I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time on them because they're just monsters. Just your general thought of this linebacking crew from Pitt. Is this a conversation of one of the top crews in the last 20, 30 years at Pitt?
Easily.
Are they in that conversation?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's talking about it. I would, and the best part, again, perspective is great. And JJ and I probably went through this, but I was actually bombarded by negativity I think they all came in the same class. Maybe not Lewis, but Biles, Lovelace, and Lewis. I was told by fans, too small. Why are we bringing in DBs? They're going to be busts. And we're looking at 3 players who are going to be amongst the best and elite in the ACC, and that's not a reach. I don't have blue gold colored glasses on at all. And I got to tell you, I was at 210 when I had a long conversation with Braylon Lovelace, and he might have been under 200 pounds at that time. And I'm not going to lie, I looked and thought, man, we're looking at a junior year until he hops on, and within 1 year he gained 30 pounds of muscle and he was making an impact. So no, this is going to be a very formidable crew. JJ, we'd have to sit there and really analyze it. But I would say, if you agree with me, and this has to be one of the top units in the last 20 years, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. I think you can't go back. Maybe something that compares to it, maybe even a little bit close, is the days of Scott McKillop and H.B. Blades. I mean, maybe you had that, but at this level of depth, though, I mean, you're looking at a crew that you just look at the depth that's there. But Kyle Lewis, he'll be an All-American again this year. Rasheem Biles, I expect him to be on the verge of an All-American. I think he's got a really good opportunity to do so. But the guy that I'm really watching this year, and I think he's going to be a completely just transformed player, and a guy that people may not know enough about and how well he's going to play, to Harry's point, Braylon Lovelace. Out of Leechburg, People talked about their football, not a lot of competition down there. The last guy to go D1, Braylon Lovelace's dad. I mean, talk about a family of lineage, just tremendous football players. I mean, those guys, physicality. Yeah, physicality. Wow. Those two, it's a blessing. I mean, I think Braylon Lovelace's dad actually went to Rutgers, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he went to play college football.
Sure did.
Guys of lineage, guys that love football, high football IQ, truly impressive. But the guys, I mean, Braylon Lovelace has just gone to another level this year of understanding the defense. When you're playing at a fast pace, you're not thinking; it's just reacting. It's just you're moving it at will, almost where where the play is going to be. I'm excited for him. Cameron Lindsay, the 4-star linebacker at Aliquippa, Quips to Pitt, man. I think he's going to do a tremendous job this year. He's going to get on the football field. That linebacker crew, I think, is about as deep as it can be. And those guys, I think, are going to play at a very high level. And I think, a lot of that stuff, Ryan Manilak needs a very much a round of applause because people were after him, after his job. He shouldn't be here. He's not good enough. He came from Cornell. This guy played in the Pat Narduzzi defense at Cincinnati. That's how good he was able to perform. That's how well he played. Played in the National Football League. Was that well. And I think it was a major upgrade from a guy like Rob Harley, who really struggled to find what they really want in that linebacker room. And you look at the development we talk about again. Ryan Manilak, last time I checked, where did Kyle Lewis decommit from? Temple. Rasheem Biles had offers. It's almost, he had a couple good offers that were in there, but everybody looked at Kyle Lewis and Rasheem Biles as one thing. He's fast enough to play safety, but he's too small to play linebacker. You looked at those aspects and you looked, okay, these guys may be odd ends for other schools. They're perfect for our defense because we want linebackers who can run with these slots, be able to guard anybody on the football field. And I wouldn't be shocked at some points you have a 4-4 set where you have 4 down linemen and a 4-star, and really a 4 set with your linebackers. I mean, that's how much depth there is. So I think this linebacker room, the ceiling doesn't exist. I mean, that's how well I think they're going to play this year.
On top of that, we could add recruiting is your lifeblood. And what's happening now, they're playing at such an elite level that it's rolling downhill to these young players. So we're looking at guys like Marcelin, Bruton, Lindsay, all these guys. And then the current recruiting class, phenomenal group of linebackers coming in. So it isn't that we're not an iceberg is what I'm trying to say. We're all the talent sitting there at the top. There's a pipeline of great linebackers behind them. And there's a pipeline of great linebackers that have committed. So, to your point, Ryan Manilak should be given so much props from the Pitt fans at this point because I don't see a drop-off in sight in the future, and I see more talent coming in. So it's very exciting. I got to put my shark symbol up too while I say that.
Let's do it. First of all, shout out to David and Danielle Lovelace, mother and father of one Braylon Lovelace. I'm name dropping again. Danielle is another New Ken, another Valley High graduate, right?
Yes, sir.
As well. So we've known the Lovelace family for quite some time. Incredible family, salt of the earth type of family, man. And shout out to Pitt's recruiting staff for finding Braylon Lovelace at 1A Leechburg. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I watch a lot of football. Okay. And I promise you that not one time, and I grew up in the AK Valley, not one time did I say, hey, I want to watch Leechburg football today. Not one time. So the fact that they found him, right. And that's a lesson for these young kids that are actually in this process right now as they're going into week 0. If you can play ball, recruiters will find you.
They'll find you
at the end of the day. They're going to find you. Okay, so shout out to them. I'm extremely excited for this linebacking core. I'm not going to go into it because JJ and Harry have done a great job. But I do have a question though. I want to kind of segue into the cornerback room and the DB room. I have become a huge fan of Coach Archie Collins, and not just for what he's done, what he did last year, but what he has been able to, all the guys that he's put into the NFL over the last couple of years has been absolutely impressive. Talk about the DB room this year and what that's going to look like, because I feel like every single year there's at least one or two guys from the DB room going into the next level, playing in the NFL, and it feels like if I had a son who was a D-back, unfortunately he is not that, but if he was, I would 100% throw him at Pitt, because Archie Collins gets those dudes ready, man. And he got a son, by the way, that's a freshman, class 29 at Montour, is going to be an absolute monster. But just for another little Archie, he can wrestle and he can play football, just so y'all know. But talk a little bit about that DB room and Coach Archie Collins.
I can tell you this. It's a lot like going into Macy's. There's a lot of options in that DB room, and especially that cornerback room. Archie Collins, man, that guy, in my personal opinion, I think he's going to be a future Power 4 head football coach. You know, he's had opportunities to go other places, and he still has stayed loyal to Pitt, which says a lot about him. And he has, you know, obviously he's a guy coming from the Detroit, Michigan area. He has done a great job of recruiting that area. But also, when you look at the development of that room this year, expect a guy who will be a starter by week 3 or week 4, Shadarian Drip Harrison. The guy has made numerous plays throughout this entire spring and fall camp. He continues to show up. Tamon Lynham, the cornerback transfer from Nebraska from last year, he's back again. I think he's going to be a tremendous asset. You also have Rashad Battle. He's back again for another year, his last year in a Pitt uniform. But also D2 All-American Rashawn Murray, a guy 6'2", has great length, very physical at the point of attack. He makes great plays on the outside. I think he's going to get a lot of touches this year. And lastly, you look at these two last guys, Zion Ferguson, who comes in from North Carolina. I think he's, former 4-star DB. He's going to get a lot of looks. But guess what? A Penn State name, Sean Lee. And you're probably thinking not the linebacker, but the cornerback. He had a prep year, played 1 year of prep, comes into Pitt, and he really has that it factor. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he certainly makes plays. And I think that you look at the DB room and you look at the cornerback room, it's under Pat Narduzzi. It's a factory. I mean, these guys go to the National Football League. Dane Jackson, Pinnock is another name. I mean, you got numerous. Damari Mathis. I mean, the names go on and on and on. The safety room. Look at the safety room. Cruz Brookins, a guy out of Steel Valley. He'll be playing in the National Football League in a couple of years. Javon McIntyre, he's back again. Then you got Joshua Guerriere, a true freshman who will play a lot this year. That's how well he's playing. I mean, you look like, and then I think Kazir Baines comes in from UC Davis, fits what they want to do. I think overall, you just look at that DB room, and it's Archie Collins and Corey Sanders. I mean, they are just tremendous football coaches. I mean, I can tell you this right now. Corey Sanders has had multiple offers to go to the SEC, and he has stayed at Pitt. Pitt has stepped up and paid those guys. I mean, it's just, we are lucky to have those guys, and I think that they understand what Pat Narduzzi looks for. And when you're in a quarter-style defense, you are teaching what they run in the National Football League. And if people don't want to know, what does it look like in the National Football League? Go watch the Minnesota Vikings, because guess what? That Minnesota Vikings defense was just brought from the Pittsburgh area to Minnesota when Brian Flores was here. He sat down with Pat Narduzzi for over 2 weeks, talked about the schemes, compared the schemes, molded the schemes, and went into a quarter-style defense. He's now got a top 5 defense in the NFL. I mean, at the end of the day, numbers speak numbers, and that's why those guys are really successful, and Pitt's DB room is going to be successful again this year.
Yeah,
where I give Collins a lot of credit, Archie Collins, Georgia's amongst the most talented states, and it comes to just raw talent out there, and he kept hammering away, and fans were a little confused on that, and all of a sudden, the dam broke open. So when we're talking about a guy like Rashad Battle, he was one of the first ones, a 6'4" corner. So to JJ's point, Cruz Brookins was like, even a year ago, was like a co-starter in a sense. He was such a dog that they had to get him going. Well, the same could be said for Shadarian Harrison. So it'll be interesting to see if he could knock off a Lyman, or about one of them at that position. But there's that, with Cruz, everything was percolating. You could feel it. Everybody knew he was talented. You're getting a lot of that with Harrison. And I got to say, I'm a Rashawn Murray fan. I love knowing that he's there as a backup. He's going to get a lot of playing time as well. And then Josh Gurrier is another dog they brought in, and he was highly recruited. That was a big, big get. And sometimes that automatically translates very quickly, and it's happening now. So, kudos to the staff. They spent some money and they brought in some key DBs. The depth is there. I don't think, to JJ's point, in particular in corner, that's settled in yet. Safety's a done deal. You have McIntyre and you have Brookins are going to be starting. But it's not like it's a weak link per se in the defense. It's solid. There's depth. And I said this about the wideouts. I said, I feel better in the offensive line. I feel better this year if a man goes down with the depth that's there. So this should be, on paper at least, we'll see what it looks like, but it should be a really formidable defense, top to bottom, and the secondary is going to be a big part of that.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about, we haven't talked about the guys in the trenches too much. We kind of glazed over them a little bit, but let's talk about those dudes in the trenches that cause a whole bunch of havoc and allow those incredible athletic linebackers to do what they do on a regular basis. Let's talk a little bit about them. I'll start with you, Harry. Tell us a little bit about that D-line that we're working with, and let's see what we got going on with there. I know we got some great dudes on that thing that's really going to make a huge impact on this Pitt defense.
If we start inside, and I know JJ will agree with me, we talked about this, there's an abundance of riches. It to the point where, I'll say Nick James and Sean Fitzsimmons will be starting. They probably should. I can't wait, by the way, to see what Fitzsimmons does this year. Talk about a possible breakout bag season. I think he's right lined up there. But
absolutely,
you have Francis Brew, Ghost Neal, you have Jashir Whittington, the bread man, Ty Uhas. You can go all the way down the line. I've talked about being comfortable with depth, comfortable if someone gets hurt. Yeah. This has to be the most. And JJ, maybe you agree with me. This might be the deepest position on the team.
100%.
Amount of talent. Now, last year, I don't think the defensive ends played up to the level Narduzzi was hoping. They added Jaden Moore. I've heard nothing but incredible things about the Oregon transfer. Jimmy Scott is going to be the definitive leader on the line, one of them, upperclassman, strong as an ox, power rusher. And then you're adding guys like Zielinski. You have Nate Temple coming back. But they added some key additions there too. The bottom line is this group on paper looks to have more potential than last year's defensive end group, and they really do need that pass rush. So I'm very comfortable with the two starters. The question is going to be what's going on behind them, because you're going to have that rotation going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Harry hit a number of great points there. Their D tackle room, I think, when you can go and say, hey, I can look at this room and say it's 6 deep, that's when you've done a good job in recruiting, but also developing that offense, that whole D tackle room. Your starters more than likely will be Sean Fitzsimmons and Nick James. Then behind them, you got the bread man we talked about, Jahsir Whittington, and then Francis Breu, who was on the freak list. Francis Breu, he's a bodybuilder playing football. The guy is an absolute freak in the weight room, but also, too, his measurables of what he's able to do on the football field. He's going to be that good, and he returns again. I think he's going to have a damn good season. He's going to look really good. And then behind them, you've got a guy like Ty Uhas and then Isaiah O'Neal, which I think was a good thing for him to add weight. We saw a number of times last year where he was getting thrown around, pushed around. I think for a guy at his size, a little bit smaller, I think it's a lot better for him to have that weight. And I think that you look at those 6 guys right there, you've got that depth and you've got that assurance. Okay, the middle of my defense, unlike last year where everything was all over the place. You really saw Pitt's defensive line struggle the first 3 weeks. We're not used to seeing a Pitt defense give up over 100 rushing yards, let alone 150, 200 rushing yards, where you saw Cincinnati just run wild again. It was very unlike Pitt. The same thing against West Virginia was very unlike Pitt. This D tackle room, much more in depth, understanding the defense, and much more in tune to what Pitt wants to do with the D tackle room. The defensive end room, Pat Narduzzi and this team, especially Tim Dowse, returns back to, I like to call the Charlie Partridge era. And these guys are going to be very good at the pass rushing specialists. Jaden Moore, a guy that really performed at a high level at University of Oregon with Dan Lanning, a former 4-star defensive end. He comes in, he was able to play linebacker, wanted to come to Pitt to put his hand in the dirt. A guy he thinks he can perform at a high level Pitt. I think he can. He'll be very good. A traditional starter, Jimmy Scott. I mean, we talk about guys coming out of New York. People have questions because of the level of football that's there. Jimmy Scott continues to get better. Had 6.5 sacks last year. A guy who was really havoc, made a really big play and a big sack against West Virginia at Acrisure Stadium. He'll be those two guys will be that 1-2 punch to start the year. But then you get a guy like Blaine Spires, and you get back to, we talked about, the guys that were there last year where you had question marks. They never really played the defensive end position, so you had question marks. But then you see a guy like Joey Zielinski, who comes in from Eastern Michigan, a guy of physicality, really took advantage of the Pitt Ironworks, plus the nutritional side of things, understanding how to take care of his body. He'll be an aspect and a really good player at the defensive end position. Then Blaine Spires, who comes in from Utah State. He comes in from Utah State, but he's a Youngstown kid. I'll take a Youngstown kid any day of the week. They're tough, physical, embrace violence. And then behind that, you got Maverick Rossio, who's a younger guy, was well known last year for his special teams block against West Virginia in the backyard brawl. He's going to be there again. But also, too, Zach Crothers is there, and you got Nate Temple. So I think it's finally back to that defensive end room where we're going to be able to attack the quarterback with a 4-man rush. Because I think a lot of times you saw Pitt really, really get after the quarterback where, they had really 4, 5, 6, 7 guys rushing the passer. Not to go too in-depth with it, but these past 2 weeks, I've gone back as far as 2001 to watch Rich Rodriguez's offense from 2001 to 2007. Then also, people may not understand this or know this. Where did Rich Rod coach football from 2008 to 2010? Michigan. Who did Michigan face? Michigan State. Who's the D coordinator of Michigan State during that time period? The Pat Narduzzi. And watching those matchups and watching how they played, if you're wondering from home, Pat Narduzzi and Mark D'Antonio were 3-0 against Michigan during that time period, by the way. So you're welcome for that. And also, they only gave 21, 20, and 17 points. Okay. And Orrin Wilson was there, who was originally on the staff before he just went to Rutgers. This stuff matches up with what Pat Narduzzi wants to run. That's stop the run, but not have to blitz 7 or 8 guys every single time. You want to be able to attack the passer with 4 guys rushing, potentially sometimes 5. That's what you want to be. If you're able to do that, like during the Kalijah Cansey, the Jalen Twyman years, the Rashad Weaver, the Patrick Jones, the Awan Price, who I talk to quite often. I miss him. I mean, he was a hell of a football player, playing football in shorts. I mean, the man was an absolute freak. I mean, it's just the lineage of just great defensive ends at Pitt have been there. And obviously we've lost Charlie Partridge. I think Tim Dowse has finally got his group and really back to what we'd like to look at his Pitt defensive line.
JJ, first of all, 2 names you mentioned, Maverick, Gracio, and Zach Crothers were hand-selected. And Maverick, Charlie monitored him. He went to Kent State. He committed. He decommitted. He came to Pitt.
Yep.
Crothers was just wreaked havoc down in Florida when he played net, and it was one of the best counties for football in the nation. So Charlie handpicked both those guys. I'm anxious to see what they could do. But to your point, the beauty about guys like Fitzsimmons and James and Brew, they're so fast off the line. We've sort of maintained that Charlie Partridge mindset. We're going to bring in super stumps. We're going to bring in those guys that are 6'1" that are just blast off the line. So you have technically 4 guys that can rush the passer. You know what I mean? And they're very disruptive. So this is a good group. I'm really anxious to see how, like I said, how they're going to perform. But on paper, in particular on D tackle, we're solid as hell. Yeah,
and I think Sean Fitzsimmons is going to have one hell of a year. I mean, you look at the physical transformation. The guy's 100% healthy. Finally, knock on wood, he stays that way. I think the guy's going to be an absolute freak this year, and I just think that it's great to see Pitt back to having the defensive line that we're normally used to seeing.
I have a question. This is going to this may rub you the wrong way a little bit, but I'm gonna read off some names. And we need to talk about some things, okay? Xavier Thomas, Alex Tatch, Brady O'Hara, Tyke Hayes, Deshaun Burnett, Matt Sieg, David Davis. Today, Gabriel Jenkins, who has the best name in the WPIL, by the way. Even though I don't care for him. Yeah. Gabriel Jenkins, Kamon Spell, Khalil Taylor. All from the WPIL, okay? That are committed to Penn State. What the hell is going on in the recruiting trail? These are some names in here, man. There's some guys that aren't even in here that they didn't even bring up. The one kid from Bell Vernon comes to mind immediately. The running back from Bell Vernon comes to mind to me.
Jay Timmons and Timmons, yeah.
Well, not Timmons, the other guy from Bell. He's from Timmons.
I'm thinking of trying to think here. Yeah,
he's from last year.
Know. Yeah. I should know too because he smoked us twice in the WPIL championship. I should know better. But long story short, why do you feel that Pitt cannot really, like, we have Sean Fitzsimmons, Cruz Brookins, we have some good people, but that's a lot of talent, man, between and it's really interesting because it's even loaded talent. Like, you have people like loaded in the same positions even going to Penn State together. You know, like that part, that's the part that's really weird to me. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, why y'all going to the same? Like, you got to compete, right? Or you could come to Pitt and probably have a little bit of a, I don't say a better opportunity, but you would have I think you'd have a more open opportunity. Why do you think that that Pitt has been having some issues losing in the recruiting game versus Penn State?
Well, I think there's a number of different things, and I to your point, this is going to be tough to hear to some people because it's going to be just an honest conversation. One, the name is obviously Quentin Martin. He ended up going to Penn State, the running back. Yep. But you look at the names, there are kids that just want to leave the area. That's number one. Number two, I think Pitt has done a good job of guys that hit the portal. Okay, so and if this was 10 years ago, I'd call it losses. There are great players like Khalil Taylor out of St. LaSalle. He's going to Pine Richland now to play up there. But one, guys sometimes want to just leave the area. It's far enough away. Number two, this has been a fact, and I've been talking about this, and this is really one of the reasons why I started to do the podcast, because I had people reaching out to me from multiple athletic departments, not just Pitt, other departments, also too from fans. We have a truly negative media towards Pitt. And there's a lot of people, for instance, journalism school. Pitt does not have a journalism school. You're getting a lot of guys like Pony from Syracuse. You're getting a lot of guys from the Penn State market. Heck, go look at 93.7 The Fan. We're lucky we have Doran on there, but then you have another guy that's on there from West Virginia. You're getting a lot of guys from other markets, especially from different schools. You're going to have a little bit of bias in there. I mean, and there's been a number of different conversations from some certain guys that go on to the Steelers that go from Pitt, and there's a lot more heavy criticism compared to certain players. But when you have constant negativity and constant pushing away from a certain school, now sometimes Pitt deserves that because they're not winning enough. At the end of the day, winning cures all. If you win, you can't argue anything. Penn State just went to the college football playoff. They were just in the semifinals. You also got a great recruiter up there in Terry Smith. People can say what they want. Terry Smith has just done a tremendous job. He's been loyal to Penn State. He played at Penn State. He knows what he's recruiting. Tyke Hayes has a great relationship with him, their family. I mean, there's numerous different things that go into that. But I think that Pitt does a really good job of getting guys in the portal. Now, I've also had a little bit of pushback on that as well. I'm not a very big fan of bringing in Whitfield guys from the portal because if you ditch us once, you shouldn't come back. Like, I got on board with the Phil Dracovic stuff, but Phil Dracovic was a very big guy in bashing Pitt when he committed to Notre Dame. Then all of a sudden, 4 years later, he needs somewhere to play. Who's he call? Pitt. I think later on as we go through it, it's great to have those relationships. I think there may come a time where Quentin Martin hits the market. Tyke Hayes. I was a huge Tyke Hayes guy. I still think to this day, Desmond Reed is an All-American. I think Tyke Hayes would have started. That's how good Tyke Hayes is at running the football. He's a guy at that size. I think he could have played right away. But sometimes when you're a kid at 18 years old, you're looking sometimes at the brand name. What's really happened as of recently? Where can I go where there's more love than anywhere else? Then all of a sudden, guys start making decisions based on money rather than situations. And I'm a big relationship guy. I'm in corporate America, a lot like us here, that are here today. I don't always take the position because I've grown up to see different areas. I don't take the job sometimes always as the most money because I care about relationships. Who am I working with? In college football, there should be a list of things that you go through. And I tell this to athletes when I talk and I do my public speaking and motivational speaking. Number one, where am I most wanted? Number one, where am I most wanted? And I'm going to be able to play football Where am I going to be most developed at? Number 2, what are my relationships like? Who am I getting to play with? Who am I getting to play for? Do they care about me, the individual, before who I am as a player on the football field? Number 3, the academic side of things. When you go to a university, and I think a lot of guys have lost this because they go to 4 or 5 different schools every year. They change to the portal. When you go to a university, it's not a 4-year decision. It's a 60-year decision. You are choosing a school that truly embraces you as the individual, not just now, but for where you're going. And Northern Illinois' coach had a really good saying too. It's the things that you learn in college. When you go to college, you're a boy. When you leave college, you're a man. And you want to make sure you have the right individuals that are teaching you common core values of, hey, when I face adversity, am I going to run away from adversity, or am I going to run to adversity? Am I going to run through adversity? Those kind of things are big for me. And I know some people, especially we all come from different places in life. Some people, hey, the money's a big thing. But I just cannot stress enough to student athletes, man, that relationships matter. Who you play for matters. Who you work for matters. And it's not always about the dough. And I understand when they're flashing $100,000, $200,000, $1 million in front of you, it's hard to say no. Sometimes it's generational wealth. But I think for where you want to go, if you want to go to the National Football League, go where you're going to be developed, go where you're wanted, and go where they truly love you where you're at. Because sometimes when you choose that wrong place for money, it's a business decision. And if you go there and you don't play well, you're on the bench real quick. And I think that sometimes guys are picking that. And right now, Penn State was just in the semifinals. They're acquiring all the power right now.
If I could just add, and I don't have to add much because JJ answered that brilliantly, but I'm like JJ now. I'm kind of nonplussed when a player goes elsewhere. We had the transfer portal, but the other thing that Narduzzi and staff did, which was strategic, was they start really tapping into Florida, Georgia, and now Texas. We thank God for Coach B, the tight ends coach. He's bringing right now a pipeline from Texas.
Yeah.
What they said is fine. We want to keep everybody home. And it's a misnomer, by the way, that Pitt's ignoring local talent. They're on them. It's up to them. And to JJ's point, there's a million different reasons. You wish everybody was like a John Curran or a Chef Turk, but unfortunately they're not. And you know what? It's okay because these kids, it's a big decision in their life. Pitt fans, I don't quite understand it now. Take it really personal. I don't, because actually the player that they just maybe missed on, they're going into these really talent-rich states and bringing a replacement in. So, like I said, to me, I'm not as worried about it, but I understand the various reasons and the various factors there. But they did that Southern shift a few years ago, and the pipeline's working out pretty well for the program. So, you wish everybody would come, but it's okay if they don't at this point. And to JJ's point, too, honestly, all those names you mentioned, 30 to 40% of them are going to be back in the portal within a couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, too. When you look at the portal from a perspective, when someone hits the portal from Pitt, all of a sudden the world's falling, right? But when Tamir Robinson hits the portal from Penn State and goes to USC, no one talks about it. So, there's media bias in there. There is certainly media bias from it. But to Harry's point, and Harry went through the recruiting process with Max, and did a phenomenal job of picking where he wanted to go. And you look at players right now, Harry hit a great point. We are really tapping into Florida. Unfortunately, the Whitfield has got great players, and they've got a great number of players right now. But it's not what it used to be 10, 15 years ago when I played at Mount Lebanon, and I played with 9 guys that went Division I. I mean, and not just Division I, Power 4, Virginia, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Pitt, Penn State, Alabama. I mean, it was there. And out in Mount Lebanon, the Quad A, Central Catholic, North Allegheny, Art Walker Jr., Bob Palco, West Allegheny. I mean, the talent was through the roof. The talent has subsided since that time period. So while I want Whitfield guys to stay home because I love my Pittsburgh guys, when you're tapping into Georgia, you're tapping into Texas, which I've talked to numerous Texas parents. And let me tell you, they said the exact quote, "The cat's out of the bag. Pitt has everything you need to be successful." I mean, when you can tap into numerous places like Georgia, Texas, Florida, California, Ohio. Ohio's got great football. Maryland, DeMatha Catholic. I can name schools across the border. You go over to Philadelphia. We get great players out of Philadelphia. St. Joseph's Prep. I mean, they got numerous great football players. I talked to these head football coaches. I mean, it's just Pitt is not going to be shied away from certain areas of where they want to go. Michigan, the Detroit, Michigan area. I mean, you've got some tough kids out of that area that I love when they come to Pitt because they never complain. They're tough as hell, and they love Pitt. I mean, Avonte Maddox is one of those guys that comes out of there. To this day, Terrence Enos, who came here, he's now at Kansas State. He still loves Pitt and talks about Pitt every day. They're finding the right kids. Now it's just time, I think, for the coaching staff. If we were winning more, the conversations really wouldn't be there. But I think overall, winning cures all. And right now, Penn State has the wand right now. When you're in the semifinals in the college football playoff, you've got a lot what's going on, and we talk about it here with Pat Narduzzi. What have you done for me lately? Where have you been? And I think the college football playoff was helpful to James Franklin because he hasn't beaten Ohio State. He can't beat Michigan. He can't beat Oregon. But guess what? He still went 10-2, 11-1, still made it to the playoff, made it to a certain area in terms of semifinals. It erases those questions. You got to be able to dive into it and be very proactive. And I will say this too, and I will put his name out there because he's a tremendous recruiter, and he was a guy that was so vital to what Pitt was doing, and that's Carlos Zocco. I can't tell you what he did from behind the scenes, what he did at Pitt. I mean, there are still athletic departments calling him to join. I mean, that's how well Carlos Zocco worked his ass off for Pitt. And I mean, he's a diehard Pitt guy. I mean, in the amount of knowledge that he distributes to high school football and through Whippeal Insider is unreal. So, I mean, Pitt's certainly missing him. I can say that.
We mentioned perspective. You want great perspective on recruiting. You talk to Carlo. I mean, he really will. He'll fill you in. He's amazing.
So yeah, I mean, real quick, put a button on this, and GB, great question on the recruiting on this too.
Yeah, great question.
JJ, you hit the nail on the head. Is like kids will want to go to certain places for their own reason.
Mm-hmm.
What drew me to my call, again, I'm a 1AA level, but was I liked being a guinea pig and playing for an NFL coach with Joe Walton and Robert Morris. Going there versus a place like, some high-level D2 schools, hey, I get the chance to learn the X's and O's of an NFL offense, as I was showing you guys, by the playbook that I still have that it's thick.
Yeah.
But also, you know what? What chance or how many times in your life can you say, you know what, I was part of the program from day one. I was the very first I played in the very first game of this college's, history. I was the very first of this at this college's history. So I stayed local, of course, but I mean, that was the reason I went there versus other schools. And everybody, like you said, some people just want to get out of the area because they want to get away from family, or they want to get enough to where, they're far enough away, but they can drive home if they need to. Some want to get way out of here. So you're right. I mean, GB and I always talk about with the Steelers, especially with Tomlin and everyone else, is like, it's about the X's and O's married with the Jimmies and the Joes. And sometimes right now, Pitt's Jimmies and Joes might be in Texas. They might be in Philadelphia. They might be in Florida. Yeah. So, you would like to see the local kids stay local. And we would always love that, especially if it marries up with the X's and O's. But right now, it seems as if the pipeline, if you will, with what Cade Bell wants to do, they're out of state. They're out of the local area, and there's nothing wrong with that. And like you said, it's a different time of recruiting. JJ, I like your opinion by, hey, you didn't choose us the first time, so why choose us the second time? But sometimes, you know what, maybe that second time does work, but I agree with you with the Dracovic thing.
Yeah, like it worked out well. It worked out well with Donovan McMillan. It worked out well with NJ Devonshire. I mean, you've got numerous guys that came back and played well.
Yeah, Derek Davis. Yeah. Just you had several guys who came back. We can go into the next. I'm already done. Yeah, it's all good. Listen, we can have that for another 2 hours here too, but we're going on a little bit hour. Totally I want to wrap this up with everybody here too. I wanted to get some fun trivia to wrap this up, and then maybe a quick record prediction. You guys have done great. JJ, you've gone in depth on the schedule on your pod. Did a great job of that. So you won't go in depth, but we'll get some record predictions after this. So 5 quick questions. And I want everybody who's watching as well. Let's see if you guys can get some of these questions here. So, since 2000,
Kenny Pickett has the most career passing yards at Pitt with 12,556 yards. Who's second?
I'm gonna say, is it Matt Cavanaugh?
It is not Matt Cavanaugh.
Since 2000, you said?
Since 2000.
Oh, 2000. Oh, my bad.
Since 2000.
I'm going to say
Stahl. Bill Stahl.
He's on the list, but not.
I was going to say Rutherford.
I'm going
Ron Rutherford.
We had another vote. We had another vote for Stahl. Stahl is fifth, actually, on the list.
Oh,
is it Tino Sinceri?
Say Rutherford.
JJ got it.
Tino Sinceri. Wow.
Tino,
the Italian stallion.
There we go. 590 yards.
Who's doing very well in the coaching ranks, actually. So good for him.
And actually, Harry, I thought you would have picked our local kid, Tyler Pelko, but he was third with 8,343 yards. So Tino Sinceri with 8,590 yards is second on that list.
So I was thinking it was somebody that was throwing the Larry Fitzgerald. Yeah, I thought somebody was throwing the Larry Fitzgerald, man.
Yeah, Rod Rutherford could probably do that by himself just by throwing the Fitzgerald. So, all right, what Pitt linebacker has the most career tackles since 2020?
2020.
Since 2020, he has the most career tackles with 125. I'll even give you the tackles. This, by the way, this is from StatMuse, so nobody online look it up or nothing, but.
Servassier Dennis.
Okay, I'll let you go with that one, Harry or GB. You got a guess? We got a McKillop.
I can't think of
right
anybody.
Out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing.
Scott McKillop would be the only other person I could think of. McKillop and Voss were so dominant. I'm going to go McKillop.
Okay, GB. Anything?
Yeah, I was thinking Servassier Dennis as well. That was the first person I thought of, was Servassier Dennis.
Ding, ding. It's Servassier Dennis. JJ is 2 for 2. Yeah, 120. Brandon George is actually second with 95. Yeah. And Bengali Kamara with 65 is third.
He was a disappointment. That's a shame.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more real quick. Who did Pitt beat to get their first conference win as a member of the ACC?
Oh, hell.
I'm going to say Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to say it's either Tech or Virginia. It's like a Virginia school.
There's always a So, GB,
I was going to say North Carolina. I just go North Carolina. I'm going to say something totally different. North Carolina.
All righty. I don't see anybody pulling in yet, but it was actually the Duke Blue Devils.
Oh yeah, we always beat up on Duke.
It was a 58 to 55 game.
Oh
yeah, W Pitt got it there too. Yeah, so how about this? I put these stats out there to bring back some memories, right? The quarterback was Tom Savage, who went 23 of 33 for 424 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Tom Savage was good, man. I tell you what. Yeah. He was really good.
Hey, James Conner, 26 carries, $173 and a touchdown, and Devin Street and Tyler Boyd were your leading receivers. Both at over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Boyd had 3 touchdowns.
Some good players there.
All righty.
These are good questions.
Yeah, 2 more real quick. In Pitt's final game at Pitt Stadium in 1999 versus Notre Dame, who was Pitt's 2-headed running back tandem who rushed for a combined 136 yards and 2 touchdowns?
I was there.
Kevin Barlow and Brandon Williams. Let's go.
No, Barlow may be right.
Is that right?
Barlow is one of them.
Barlow has to be one, but wait, who
was it? Brandon? It wasn't Brandon.
I haven't thought about Brandon in a long time, but
I can't even guess this.
Barlow has to be one. I was there with my wife.
Barlow was
I can't think of number 2. Barlow was a great.
Nobody look at the chat. Yeah, somebody got it right.
Who was the other one?
JJ, you got a guess?
I honestly don't even know. I can't even go like that. That was good. Barlow, I figured.
Will. Correct.
I forgot about Nick Goings.
Barlow had 19 carries for 71 yards, and Nick Goings 15 for 65.
Oh man.
Remember him? I
transferred from Ohio State,
right?
Yeah, he was
For
good
the
from
longest time, I
OSU.
thought it
He
was
was
Nick
good.
Going, and then the Nick Goings was just like a nickname or something, like because he's Goings and Goings. But yeah, Nick Goings had 15 for 65. I guess this is back in the day where it
Shout
was.
out to Will, man. That's a great pickup.
Yeah,
Dude, that's
good
a
job,
great
Will. Absolutely.
Hey, dude,
By the way,
I
bonus
thought
question.
you put that in there because of Brandon. because of
Hey,
Vikings,
bonus
Brandon
question
Williams,
because
man.
I did not know this. Who was the quarterback of that game?
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Peter?
According to my stats, it said
Or
John
Turman.
Turman.
No,
John Turman. That was the other
not
one.
for that last game. I was there.
Okay.
Pete Gonzalez now, I
Yeah,
think would be
Pistol
right.
Pete was the quarterback.
I thought it
In
was Pete
fact-
Gonzalez too.
Yeah, no.
he's sober.
I mean, I could be wrong on this. I swear it was Pistol Pete.
Okay. Well, you know what? When I looked these up, it said John Turman because my initial thought was Pete Gonzalez too.
Yeah, you tell
I'm
them
like,
to kiss my
I
ass.
keep
It was
seeing
good.
John Turman.
I
You
was
tell me
there.
to kiss my ass.
I remember that. I swear. That'll drive me
Fair.
crazy. When I'm done, I'll have to Google. But I tell you, it was amazing. Real quick, true story about
Yeah,
that game.
yeah.
The kid, there was an old couple behind us. They've been to like every Pitt game. They're in their like 80s. They busted out crying at the end. But there was a kid with his father that said, "I'm getting naked and streaking." And this was a regular poster when I ran the Rivals.com site. Long story short, it was Turman. Okay, Will, I'm wrong then. I apologize.
Yeah.
Man, he's just a genius. But
Will's a genius. Who are you, Will?
So to make a long
Here.
story short, the kid stripped nude. He ran all the way down, and he had his fraternity brothers waiting in a car right in front of the O with cops chasing him. And he dove into the car. I won't say the poster's name, but it was a regular poster when I ran the rival site. And he sat right to the left. And the kid, buck-ass naked, ran all the way down, jumped into a car, and never got caught. So I always think about that every time I think about that game.
He didn't
That
try
is
to
such
run
an
into
awesome
Zelda's,
story.
baby.
Yeah, he
That's
outran
right.
3
That was-
police, man. The
Uh-oh.
kid was in shape. He was in shape.
He was in shape.
But hey, shout out to Will though, because
Yeah, absolutely.
man, that's a great
That's
call.
a great call. Thank you, Will, for backing up my research on that. So, okay, so last one. This might be more of a layup, but we'll see if we get anyone stumped here. So, since 2010, what Pitt running back has the most career rushing yards?
I would think it's James Conner.
I would think Shady.
I was thinking James
Oh,
Conner.
Shady. I forgot about that. Yeah. I'm gonna still say James Conner.
Okay.
Well, that was since 2010, though. So
2010.
didn't Shady come out before 2010?
Oh shoot.
So I would say either.
I'm waiting for Will.
I think when did Dion Lewis come out?
I'm saying right now, Will's
trying
on
to think.
ChatGPT. Well,
Will's on
I'm just joking, Will. Will, you're doing well, man. I'm joking.
Is that Dion Lewis or James Conner? It got to be one of the two.
Lewis was there before Connor?
Yeah.
Yes, correct. And I want to say it was right before, right there, like right in that 2000.
I don't know.
Can I,
2010.
2010.
Real quick to throw a monkey wrench in this of the top 5, Dion Lewis is not one of them.
Get out of town.
Yeah. I'm going James Conner. Because, I mean, hell,
Well, yeah,
4-year
Conner,
starter.
yeah. He was that guy.
It is James Conner, 3,733 yards.
Yeah.
Cool.
There are
Who are the
4
other
other
ones?
names. So there are 4 other names, not named Dion Lewis. Can you guys give me one of these 4 names? Just one guess each person. And if anybody in the chat would like to weigh into one name.
the kid. What's the kid from Jersey? Sheesh. I can see
That's
his
what I'm
face.
trying to think of. I'm embarrassed that I can't think of his name right now. He was awesome against Notre Dame in particular.
Yes.
Yes, Will, where are you at?
You and I are thinking about the same dude.
Yeah, we're thinking of the same person. I'm right now.
Yes. Yes. What's his name? I know. As soon as I see
That's
his
my
name,
guy.
That's him.
I can know once I start
Yep,
naming
that's
some of
exactly
these, you
what's
guys
gonna
will be like, oh my God.
Ray Graham.
Ray
That's
Graham.
who
Ray
it- Ray
Graham.
Graham.
That's who it
Yes,
is.
He was
Ray Graham is
The
number
Jersey kid.
2.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
so Ray
I can
Graham
see
is
that.
second with 2,900.
Ray Graham was a beast, man. He was such an underrated
Man, was
back
he
in Pitt
ever.
history. Even
So good.
He was. So number
Yeah.
3 on that list was Quadri Olison, obviously.
Yep.
Darren Hall is
Yeah.
number 4. And
Yeah.
Abanikanda
Izzy.
was number 5. Izzy.
Yeah, Izzy got busy. Yeah.
Great job, guys. Great job. Will,
Great
everybody
questions.
else in the chat,
Great
appreciate
trivia
you guys.
questions.
some really cool, some fun stuff. So last thing to wrap this up real quick, and we can get out of here. No in-depth analysis like that because we'll probably all be wrong. What is your record prediction for Pitt this year overall? GB, you're my man cave cohort here. Start.
Yeah. So I've been seeing a lot of 9-3. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of 9-3. I'm going to say 10-2, and they're going to be in the ACC championship, and they're going to win that thing, and we're going to see them in the playoffs.
Okay, Harry, what's up? What are you, bud?
I'm going to say 9-3. The two games that gave me the most problems are the two Florida teams, Florida State and Miami, in particular Miami, because they're such Heckle and Jekyll. 1 minute they're a world beater, next minute they're crap in the bed. But I'm still going to go with 9-3.
Okay, JJ, what about you, sir?
I'm going to go 9-3, and one of the definite losses I think is going to be Boston College, because Pat Narduzzi cannot beat Boston College. It doesn't matter who the coach is, who the player is, A.J. Dillon, Bob Dylan. It doesn't matter. They just can't beat him. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Bob Dylan.
I looked through the schedule real quick, and I'm like, I got Duquesne, Central Michigan, West Virginia, 3-0. Louisville, Boston College, they split those. Okay, so that's 4. Florida State, Syracuse a win. NC State, Stanford, maybe you split one of those. And then that last stretch, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami.
Hardest stretch. Hardest stretch they got.
2-1 there somewhere. I like 9-3, but JJ, to your point, they got to start beating these mid teams to kind of get themselves in that upper echelon. So I would like to see 10-2, 9-3, 8-4 could be realistic, but I'm going to say 9-3, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope it's more of a 10-2 and maybe a berth in an ACC championship. So,
and two hot takes. Takes. One, we finally beat West Virginia in Morgantown, finished the series 3-1. Number 2, we beat Kenny Minchie and Notre Dame at home in Acrisure Stadium.
Would love it.
I agree.
You ready?
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
I love it. So,
Jay,
gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out here. Harry, JJ, appreciate you guys hanging in the Bird Cave.
Yes, thank you so much.
Appreciate
awesome.
you. Anybody else wants to keep talking some football, some NFL, some NCAA, come back, check us out on the Bird Cave. Check out JJ. We're talking football with JJ Kitchen. Great football podcast. Harry, hey, if anybody haven't got the book Struggle to Strength, man, very, very great book.
Tremendous.
Very good book.
Must buy.
Amazon bestseller, baby.
Keep it in there. Bestseller. Going to be a best all-time seller. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see everybody on the next one. Take care.
Bye, everybody.